This conference will now be recorded.
There we go. Okay, there's currently not anybody that's dialed in virtually, but I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Okay, let me pull up the agenda. So there's several handouts here for tonight. So it's the agenda, it's the copy of the minutes from the October LPC meeting. It's also a copy of the bylaws, the LPC bylaws, and a copy of the resolution that established the LPC, which in the agenda, it outlines where that'll come up in discussion. All right, so with that, all right. I call the Shelby County Lead Prevention and Sustainability Commission meeting to order at 6:03 p.m. We can go ahead and start with roll call. I am Latricia Adams, chair present. Parliamentarian Eric Stevenson. Present. All right, member Matthew Woods. Present. All right, we currently have 3 LPC members present. Okay. I'm multitasking, I'll get that down. Okay, we did not receive any requests for public comment in writing, and currently we do not have anyone on the line from the public that has any requests for public comment. So we will bypass that agenda item. Agenda item 3 is approval of the minutes. So just for on the record, on the digital copy that made it to the sunshine list, there is a digital copy that's embedded in the hyperlink to access the minutes from the October 19th, 2022 meeting. And then also we have printed copies of the minutes as well. I want to, make a motion to approve the minutes from October 19th, 2022. Do we need time to review? And these are the minutes. We got a lot. It's this right here. All right, also on the record, it looks like we do have someone that is joining from the general public. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm doing well. I just got here, so I apologize for my tardiness. I was caught in
That's
traffic.
okay. That is okay on this rainy Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay. And we are currently, and I'll put the link to the minutes in the chat box, but right now we're currently reviewing the minutes from the October 19th, 2022 meeting. So let me put that in here for your access, the minutes. Awesome. Thank you. I always forget to sign. All right. Whenever y'all done reviewing, just let me know. And then, okay, so let me make sure I say this right. It's been a minute. I'm excited. We can make a motion to approve these minutes. I'm excited. Okay, so are there any points of discussion or recommendations for amendments to the minutes from 10/19/22? Okay, so I make a motion to, do I make a motion that we vote? I move that we, what I say? I forget.
Well, it's you can open the floor for the question.
Oh, okay. I open the floor for questions for the minutes from October 19th, 2022.
Hearing none, then you can ask for.
Okay. Okay. Hearing none, I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the 10/19/2022 meeting.
So,
Okay. Do I have a second?
second.
All right. So that motion passes.
Yes.
All right, there we go. I had to get back into the groove of things. Okay, awesome. So we'll move into old business on the agenda. So the first item is an update on the Memphis Shelby County Schools Lead Tested Communication Partnership. I am so happy to confirm that the partnership finally is confirmed. So essentially what that will look like is we've been in communication with Memphis Shelby County Schools. I have to get acclimated to saying Memphis Shelby County Schools with their communication team, where essentially they will be providing information about the satellite testing that you can get through the Shelby County Health Department, and also contact information should folks have questions about that testing. So now, this is not a hiccup, but it's a little bit of a delay. So to make sure that the information that will be going out into that parent newsletter, I did reach out to the Shelby County Health Department to ensure that the information that's on the website, that it was actually accurate before we put this out into 100,000 plus hands of parents. So there is some information that has to be updated. So the initial distribution was actually scheduled to go out today with that information, but we're still waiting on additional revisions and whatever the updated information needs to be from the health department. And so I did request that if we still would be able to get the information in the next round of communication that will go out with that parent newsletter, which they anticipate will go out at the top of January. I want to make sure that I get this right. It's the actual date here that I want to name. So the next one they anticipate going out around January the 10th of 2023, which may be the best because it's at the top of the year. It's the holiday season right now. So as far as visibility, that might work out better anyway. The biggest thing was with so there was a flyer that the LPC used historically, maybe like right before the pandemic, so it's been a minute. And so the information was retrieved from the Shelby County Health Department website, but it has since changed. And so because it's still, even though it's a document that was generated by the LPC, just, off of mutual respect, because this is information coming from this agency, it is subject to their review. So my position is I would much rather for you just to give us the accurate information as opposed to it getting caught up with like a flyer, the flyer itself. I just want parents to have accessibility to their information. So we shall see. Hopefully, everything will be ready to go so that we can move forward with getting the information out to parents. And hopefully, that'll push parents to actually get the testing done. But that's the update there. Any questions or comments? Yeah, January the 10th. Yep. And let me, yep. And just on the record, we've had another community member to join virtually. Hi, Sarah.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome back. So if there are no further questions or items for discussion on that item, yeah, I think it's a baby, a child. We'll move to the second item. So update. Okay, so this is still an update. It's a recurring item with community requests to speak before City Council regard Memphis Like Gas and Water lead service line replacement. So I do have a positive update, which may be a good entry point. So at the budget committee meeting, was it last week? Everything was a blur. I think it was last week, with the nonprofit Black Millennials for Flint, there was a unanimous vote to allocate $5,000 that was supported by the full council, that will go towards efforts around getting more people in the community, particularly in communities where they're concentrated lead service lines. To make sure that they know what preventative measures are, and so that they can also request to get lead testing kits from MLGW. So that was on the record. Is buy-in from the council. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit nervous from experience before with city council. So that's positive. There was not requests for like comment necessarily, so that's positive. So I'm wondering at this point, would it be a good idea for it to be a specific ask? I recommend, as opposed to kind of leaning in heavy on like, this is not happening, this is not happening, and just straight up ask like, can we have a filtering program? So a filtering program was something that was requested more than once from Chet Kibble from the Memphis Shelby County Lead Safe Collaborative. Now he did reach out directly to his council person, which is Councilman Ford. I'm not sure if he had received a response, but I think, as opposed to just highlighting the issue, I think that if there is a direct ask for what that mitigation could look like, may be the best move. I think that it also, from a strategy perspective, to one, demonstrate where MLGW, with this proposed infrastructure funding, there is, I think, almost $3 million that's allocated toward lead service line replacement, and then it's a little under 500,000 that's dedicated to actually establishing or figuring out where all the lead service lines are, and then trying to figure out like how they're going to actually approach the replacement. The biggest issue is the residential side. So on the public side, I mean, they have an inventory. It's not perfect, but they have an inventory of where those lead service lines are and a mechanism for capturing it, because they have a GIS map. But that GIS map does not take into account what's on the residential side. So that kind of puts you in a hairy situation where you're doing partial service line replacement, and that's like a big no-no. Because with a partial service line replacement, that's kind of counterproductive, because you got one side that's replaced, but the residential side could still be leaching lead, and it kind of can go both ways, right? So all of that to say, in the interim, like while they are trying to figure that out, I think they have, I don't want to quote, they have a limited amount of time that they have to actually spend that money when it does come down. People still need to be safe in the interim. So right now, it's kind of by request basis. So if you do get a lead testing kit from MLGW and it does come back that you have elevated levels, they will issue you a water filter, but it's only up to 3 months. And so what could potentially be the proposal is, one, can you give some more money to MLGW so that they can actually provide more filters? Because another concern that comes up is, what happens in that space and time when you're waiting for your test results to get back? So let's say that I did submit a water testing kit, a lead testing kit, and it does come back with lead in my water. That means that in that window of time, and even further beyond that, if I had been drinking directly from the tap, that means that I was exposed. And if you, from the onset, like gave out a water filter, then perhaps like that would be another preventative measure. But anyway, that's a recommendation that came to the LPC from community. But this discussion, just what are your thoughts about approaching it that way? That's a lot to unpack. I said a lot.
The filter program is doing something. and I actually bought one of those zero water filters.
Listen, I got a zero water filter too. It actually, the water is like delicious with that
And it came with one of those total suspended solid detectors, and it doesn't tell the
Yeah,
whole story, but it does tell you something.
it does.
And
It
I can
does.
tell the taste and the difference in the water. It
Mm-hmm.
does taste crisper, like you said.
Yeah.
So I think it's something.
It is something. I guess the thing that I'm missing and I'm trying to fully understand is how sustainable is that? For example, if they issue a filter and the filter is good for a month duration, is there like how long will that is identified? How long will they continue to provide it in lieu
Yeah.
of the lines being fixed? I mean,
Yeah.
again, it's something. It's
Yeah.
important that there be something.
Well, that's a good point. And even if replacing filters itself, because mine is all gunked up now. It's grading slope, so I need to get up.
Yeah.
So how sustainable is it?
Yeah, it becomes a question of, you can do it once and then it's just, pacifies. And again, that's less lead in the body of a person. Mainly, hopefully, less lead in the body of a kid. That's the main thing. But if there's not a follow-up plan to continue that once it's been identified, then it's
Exit
yeah,
strategy.
there's no continuation or exit strategy. And so
Yeah.
it's just like a Band-Aid on a gushy wound, if you will.
Then, in addition to that, it puts all the onus on Memphis like gas and water. And I ain't trying to be mean. At the end of the day, it's business. And so, while even giving like the initial like water filters is good, I think that it serves as an education touch point. But that is a good question, like around sustainability. Um, Yeah, so there's a question in the chat that says, well, comment that MLGW drops splitter pictures. Do they still do that? Or is this to expand to actually drop off filters? So what the recommendation is, one, that if there are elevated levels found in a home, if they can provide an extended amount. So that wasn't specified. So that's a good question. Like, would it be a 6-month supply as opposed to 3? I think the gist of it is pretty much like if there is a cluster of testing that's coming from a particular community and it keeps coming back like in a highly concentrated area, is having lead leaching in the water, then that will signal to MLGW that, okay, we need to prioritize this and replace the pipes. I think the impetus of the filtering program is there's something that is happening while they are actually working to replace those pipes. Another issue that was brought up, and then it goes back to your sustainability piece. One, I don't personally know how long it takes for them to do that replacement. And then two, even after the lead service line replacement is done, it takes a while, like for things to get settled. Then you add in the other piece, like if it's a partial service line replacement, all at any time, lead can come back at any moment because it only has been partially replaced. But the push is, when I push, well, legally, if any of the funding that is earmarked, so any of that $3 million, it has to be a full replacement. So you can't use that funding to do a partial replacement. But again, that's just 3 million. I have requested like just like ballpark figure, how much does it cost to replace like one pipe, right? I still haven't got that back because I'm trying to wrap my mind around how much is this gonna cost. So 3 million.
Maybe a drop in the bucket.
Right.
It may be, 1,000 households. We don't know.
Right. So, and another part of that with that, like right at 500,000, part of that also is for them to develop a plan. And so my push also was, are you going to bring like experts in the community? It didn't even have to be experts, but like engaged community around what that's going to look like. And then like, what is your prioritization plan? That still has not been released either. And they really honestly, they being MLGW, and I'm not even sure the city council is privy to this. They also need to be careful with where they're doing the replacements, because if it looks like you are prioritizing, even if it's inadvertently, I don't know, but if it looks like based on data that you are doing more replacements in a majority affluent or majority white neighborhood in comparison to a more economically vulnerable or majority Black, Latinx, or, and well, we don't really have that many indigenous people, but if you do, community, then you make yourself at risk for an issue around civil rights. But yeah, so this is, I'll be honest, this is always like a point where I'm just gonna be honest, I don't know what the best approach is from a city council perspective, but I do think that they need to be privy to like this being an issue, because MLGW is not presented in a way of crisis. And I think that if you got like, you know, over 14,000 lead service lines or more, you don't even know, I would like to say that that is pretty significant.
Those 14,000 lead service lines, have they identified how many residential households that they represent? And I think that was a question I had a long time ago.
Nope, they have not. That's part of the issue. So that's just what they have calculated on the public side. So it literally, I mean, it literally makes me get the heebie-jeebies, like to even think about like how many exist on a residential side, especially when you get into communities that's in economic distress. Also Black communities. Mm-hmm. Yes.
That aging infrastructure is going to skew Black, especially in these cities that's predominantly Black anyway. Those communities are going to skew even Blacker than they already are. I mean, already in the city already is.
So I wonder, and I'm just gonna say, I'm not doing it. I ain't doing this presentation and to city council. However, I wonder if we can request through an ally council person if there could be a briefing with city council, similar to what we have done before as a commission with county commission, to just like educate the commission on a particular issue. But my thing is like it's got to be an ask, especially on the city council side. But I don't know like what the best like ask is, but I think, you know, that might be a good step, is to just tell them like what the issue is. It's not completely like foreign. Like they know that we have lead service lines, but I don't know if they understand the disparities that's associated with these lead service lines, and its opportunity to fix it. But like, there's not a plan. This commission has asked MLGW for a plan since 2019 from our inception, and we do not have one, and we're going into 2023. So one ask could be, city council, you fund MLGW partially, you can request that they do a plan. They have to do one anyway with this money, but they keep putting it on the back burner. So I don't know if that could be an ask where it puts the onus on them as opposed to us as community members who are not engineers, who are not necessarily, you know, water quality experts, to at least get them to do the preliminary work with determining how you going, what's your plan for replacing these lead service lines? Like,
Has that work already done at all?
I don't think so. We have, and you know, we have asked, and I, you know, have it in writing. We have requested what that plan is, literally, and I'm going to do a summary because it's not a direct quote. For example, when we asked how you prioritize and where you're going to start to do the replacement, and they said, well, we're going to try, you know, to make sure that we're not doing our replacements in Midtown and that we may go to Orange Mound and North Memphis. And I'm like, that's not a plan. That's not a prioritization plan. When I say prioritizing, I want you to use data. Y'all already have data. You have a source of data. Is it pristine data? No, but you are a utility provider. Like, you should be able to lean on science and data to best inform your decisions. You just speaking like very informally about, well, we're not going to do just focus on Midtown. It's almost like that makes me feel uncomfortable. Like, are you insinuating that that's what you were doing at first?
So
I don't know.
the problem with that is try and maybe.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna try to make sure that we don't start with this only, and then maybe we'll get to, no, like, there's discrete ways to determine how you can, which which communities you're gonna go after. If you know that there's a concentration in any one neighborhood, then you go after the neighborhood. And I think the prioritization, and again, this is just me talking in the wind, prioritization should be in the neighborhood that has the most socioeconomic and social determinant of health issues. Prioritize there. That's gonna be the place where you go first, and that's easy to quantify. Now, I can get you the data for that tomorrow. Like, I can think of neighborhoods tomorrow that are most challenged, of the ones that are, hey, this is where the issue lies.
Yes.
And of these places where the issue lies, which one of these probably should go to first? The Forest one, the one right here.
Mm-hmm.
It's no way. No, I'm just upset to mention it.
Well, it is frustrating. Lately, Antoinette, our intake coordinator, she got some data, I believe, from the health department's website. It showed all the zip codes of lead, and most of them are here. So it's like you said, the data's there.
Yeah, and then Sarah in the chat said or asked, are there formulas from other communities to assess the residential side? Thinking home age is a starting point. So there is not that I know of. The only thing that I know from a formula perspective is that federal formula that they use that is really just a ballpark figure where they try to calculate, like, on average, how many lead service lines exist at the community level, but it doesn't zero in. But not that I know of, but I'll ask. I know they're gonna tell me no, but I'm good for, baby, getting you to put it in writing. So I will ask that question outright to MLGW. And that goes back to, like, part of what that almost $500,000 is about. If you need to get a statistician in here, if you need to get a scientist to help you develop a formula, like, you need to do that if you don't have the capacity, because it might be a money issue. To literally go to every single household in Shelby County or whoever they serve, that's a lot. That's a large undertaking, but you got to have a plan, like, come up with something. And then even with that plan, I think that it needs to be subject to approval and input, not just public input, but also input from city council. If city council makes decisions for TVA and on the energy side, why are they not being included? Why would it not be inclusive of things surrounding water quality? To me, I mean, it's very important, both sides of this thing. But yeah, so I guess next steps would be to follow back up with Chet. So I do want to honor that he had the filter request component.
It's Chet the primary. Who and what?
Chet is from the Memphis Shelby County Led Safe Collaborative. So he made public comment at the last meeting, and did the actual request, a recommendation for a filtering program. And there are some programs both on the city side. I think it's on the city. Let me not misquote on the city. I know for certain on the county side, depending on some conditions, will provide water pitchers, but it's got to be a concerted effort. And wherever we could pull resources, we need to pull resources. But all of that to say, so circle back with Chet around this filter program, because it's got to be more spelled out. And then I think maybe the direction from a LPC perspective is doing a formal request through city council for this plan, and it needs to be public facing, and request public input on what this plan is going to be for lead service line replacement. Okay. All right. Filter program. Now who gonna go? Who gonna go ask? Who's gonna go ask? Maybe I think that what may be good if it is, but you have such a short amount of time. Maybe, and I'm gonna keep it 100. Maybe the Green and Healthy Homes Initiative, because they are maybe a little bit more palpable. I'm gonna say that since I'm on record. And also they have an existing joint program that's a city program. So they work in concert with the Department for Community Development, and I always tear up the name, the housing people where Paul came from. Work for that work in tandem with that department. So that may be a little bit more palpable because they can actually draw on what they see from their program with going in the homes, because they work on the lead paint side. So maybe that may be a good angle, is to get them kind of as the front facing person, because what I'm afraid of is there's weird energy between the city and the county, and I don't want to come forward and say that I'm from, because even when I did the thing to get the support for the program, the community program, I specifically did not say anything about the LPC, because I didn't want it to be like, well, why are you here? You from the county? Why are you talking to the city? So I don't want no smoke. But that's my recommendation, is that the county
I mean,
kind
the
of
county
stay
can
out
support
of
the
it.
efforts of Green and Healthy Homes, going to lead that effort. I think, we can support background,
I
as necessary,
wonder
but it may be an effective strategy.
if they agreed to
Because
it.
there is, well, yeah.
I think that they would. I
But
think that they
there's,
would.
yeah, I mean, you're not wrong about it being, challenges there. We've had conversations about, things that have been said by the city council when it comes to, or vice versa, when it comes to certain issues that are now on one side versus the other, when it comes to funding or, getting things happening. So it's a toss them all across the aisle, which is never helpful.
So I wonder, like, leading up to that, if what really would be powerful if we can get some community members to preface that, to make public comment, and then that will what's the word I want to say? Substantiate a formal presentation. Like if you have somebody that's actually from community that's being impacted, and we got some folks that's been impacted, if we can get them to like come and make public comment, where now you're face to face with your constituents, right? That's saying like, hey, like I got this situation going on, like with my water, like what's up, like what y'all gonna do? Because you can't get out of pocket with your constituents. You're not supposed to.
That's why you're there.
You're not supposed. You're not supposed to. I don't know. What y'all think? Or should we just think for just trying to do a formal presentation?
I think that there's a need for presentation, but I do think there is a power in having community support, because here's the challenge, and here's, what the rub is we can sit in rooms and talk about it, and we can be, passionate about it moving and happening. But elected officials don't. Elected officials are most afraid of someone saying that they're ineffective and getting voted out.
Mm-hmm.
So I hate to lead by fear, or hate to use fear, but the reality is that is probably the best fear, the best impetus for a council member to move and do something. So if we can galvanize some local people who are actually affected by it, and partner and connect them with who they need to be connected to, so that they can stand before the city council and say, hey, this is an issue, and this is how you can start the conversation and move it. And it ain't nothing like an affected citizen that is passionate about an issue It ain't nothing more that they want to do is have an opportunity to win or where they represent.
Mm-hmm. So recommendation did come in the chat box that said maybe engage constituents for follow-up if there's no movement after the formal presentation.
So engage constituents.
I kind of feel like that would work for county commission, but for city council, I don't know. Like I get it. I don't know.
I think they're right. I think we
Yeah.
have both 1 and 2, but I think that once phase 1 happens, phase 2 is an inevitability.
Yeah.
So I already have both waves ready to go.
Okay. So yeah, so I guess next steps is I will speak with fellow LPC member Sharon Hyde offline to see if there is interest in moving forward with doing a formal presentation to City Council around lead service line issues, with the acts being, can they do a formal request to MLGW for a formal plan with a timeline, with benchmarks, like ain't nobody got time for this. And it needs to be an opportunity for public engagement, public input, there we go. And asking them, like, what role do you want to play in this, being that, you fund them largely.
That's another thing that I think once we have time over the break or between now and January 10th, whenever, I think it might behoove us to kind of go back and really understand and follow them. I think it's always critical to know like these money sources of funding, how things are moved, where they're going, knowing where the money is, following the money. I think the things that are two things I think that are going to move things is one, funding, and not saying, hey, we need more funding. I'm not even suggesting, but having a good grasp of where that's coming from. Two, once we understand how the funding is moving and where it's going, where it's leaking or whatever, then understanding, okay, what's the impact to the constituents and gets constituents engaged. Money and people.
Okay. Yeah, because it's a difference just to see a line item, but like I want to know like what's up, like how is it being spent? Because you're just showing me just like service line replacement.
Do you know how much you spent on? I'll say okay. And I'm country, so I use analogies. So I have no idea how much I spent on gas in the last 6 months, right? I know it's higher. Speculate. Once I go back and start understanding, then I can do several things. Like, okay, I spent too many times where I went to the high, it's always a place real close where you get gas where it's 30 cents higher, right?
Yeah.
Now I know, okay, I need to stop doing that because I done spent too much money. I done spent $200 too much probably if I just switched out. And that's an oversimplified example, but if we start following that money, and we understand how because it's real easy. My point is it's real easy for things to lose track. Real easy because it's a billion and one things going on. It's real easy to lose track of money. But if you know specifically, hey, this is where this money is going, this is how it's happened, this is what was supposed to happen, and this is what didn't happen. And this is how much stuff that would be allocated towards whatever else is supposed to happen. That's more impactful.
Yeah.
Then weaponize with the community folks to say, hey, this money, which is likely in part, supposed to be given or allocated to the betterment of the citizens. If not, and because it's not, it was just information we should do. Because it's their loss, really. So,
and I think that really would resonate with these council persons about like where their money is going. Because even in that budget meeting, like that was coming up on a different topic, but they were very particular around like, you ask for all this money, like specifically like what it's going where, why, like, yeah. So I think that that is like a valuable point, like from a business kind of approach, that will pique the interest, especially like from those super district people. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Um, well, good deal. Okay, that was a
I'm
good.
sorry.
No, this was good because we've been sitting on this item and it keeps coming up. So I'm like, Lord, I need to fully address it.
We gotta get that going.
Yeah, we got to get that going, especially going into 2023, where we're gonna have to start seeing implementation and rollout of some of this stuff with this funding. So it's time. It's time. Okay, cool. So I will move to the next agenda item. This one is quick. So update on the LPC website. So the website finally got approved. It took 2 years, but we made it. And to me, that raises the profile of our commission, because some commissions kind of be laying low and you don't know that they exist, but I want everybody to know that we out here doing the thing. So they move really quickly, where they have an outline. Now it's not like super robust. What I did get excited about is it has the actual report that is a requirement with the resolution that shows what that shows the assessment of the fidelity of the lead testing in school drinking water. So that will be on that page. Of course, like all of the existing board members will be on that page, like the core ways in which we operate. And the biggest thing is a point of contact. Will also be on there, and it's the Shelby County government email, which is great. Yeah, so I mean, I'm real excited about that. I am gonna do a request for them to add social media pages to to to, to the page, because that's gonna be more like day-to-day updates, especially like with meetings and stuff like that. Because, well, if you're familiar like with government, it takes a while to get stuff edited and posted on the website, because it's a mammoth beast. But yay, excited that that has come to pass. I do have a meeting, I think tomorrow morning, because today Wednesday. Yeah, tomorrow morning with IT, to kind of go over like some next steps about rollout. It will be vetted, of course, like by members of Mayor Harris's team, of course, to make sure, that everything is in tip-top shape, that we won't be, have anything that's crazy on there, that we are protected as the LPC. But yeah, that's the update there. Yep. Any questions, comments on that?
No, at whatever point we can get a stick together, or whatever.
Yep. So I did send it over to LPC members today, because I just got that today. But I'll say this on record, what I will do in the release of the minutes. Oh, wait, I'm like, I don't know if I can do that yet. So nope, I can't do that yet because it's not public. And I don't think it's subject to like public review yet. That's fine. So LPC members on record did receive a preliminary snapshot of what that would look like. For the general public, when it is live, then we'll make sure that we provide that information, and all our various communication streams. Like, let me not get myself in trouble. So yes. Okay, next item. So this update on the resolution that allocated 160,000 for environmental justice. If you are virtual, if you have access to the digital agenda, you will see that link that takes you to an actual copy of that resolution. I'll also now drop that link into the chat box. And for those who are present, there are hard copies that are available. And this is, I'm like, is this the right resolution? Oh, wait, no. Oh, I messed up. This is the resolution for the LPC. Is it? No, it's not. It's the right one. Never mind. I had it together. Go self. Okay, but y'all don't have the printed copy here. Okay, well, y'all can look on with me, so I don't want no problem. So this is the resolution that allocated $160,000 for, oh, it's my touchscreen, for environmental justice. In the resolution, it does not specifically identify who would be in receipt of this funding. To date, that still has not been determined. However, the respective agencies within the county are working to get that identified, and that is a fair process. But what makes this funding unique is that it's attached to a resolution, which means that your respective departments don't have as much flexibility per se, because it's in their budget, but it's in their budget because a resolution told them to allocate this in their budget. So the recommendation was for this funding to further support work that's done around lead remediation work. So whether that be lead paint, lead and water from a residential perspective. Of course, since this particular commission is the entity that championed and rallied behind this resolution to be passed, I mean, we would be remiss as an entity that's focused on lead prevention not to say that that's the recommendation. But because it's environmental justice, in the language, I mean, environmental justice can mean a myriad of things, but that was the recommendation from the LPC perspective. We do not have any say so or influence around how or what this will actually go to. But I do want to say on record that was the recommendation, is it would be something that's focused on lead prevention, particularly because there are existing systems that are in place both on the county side and the city side around lead prevention, particularly in housing. So yeah, not any updates yet around who's gonna get the money, but at least we know where the money is, what shop it's in. But there is work being done to kind of get some of we know how it goes, like some of the kind of red tape situated with this funding. I definitely empathize there. And then trying to determine what would be, in fairness, who would be the receiving entity from a local perspective. I also, as always, want to go on record and say that there are no conflicts of interest with receipt of this funding from anybody that's on the Shelby County Lead Prevention and Sustainability Commission. This effort to even get this resolution passed was reflective of community that requested that there be resources invested in environmental justice. I want to make sure that I make that perfectly clear. I have hands off. It's above me now with what's going on with this funding. We did our job as the LPC to get a resolution passed for the first time with language around environmental justice. So kudos to the LPC, but it is the kind of a handoff, and we're just doing our due diligence to make sure that like it is implemented and actually allocated with fidelity. Yep, nothing more specific on that, but any questions? And I see this.
So the fiduciary will be determined at a later date.
Correct. And these letters are office bothering me on this. I don't know what happened.
That's a general question. You don't have to have an answer for it. I just learned, I was in a meeting surrounding brownfields and EPA, of course, government agencies funding, especially large amounts of funding, to get to it. But is there, do you know of any specific funding that EPA funding that can be allocated towards lead prevention?
From the potential brownfield funding?
No.
Or from this?
From EPA.
Oh, from EPA. Yeah.
The brownfield funding made me aware of it because of course, brownfield has, commercial implications, yada, yada. I know that, like, again, EPA, that's a long process. But just curious to know if you knew of anything or heard anything that came out about lead prevention funding as it relates to EPA.
So I'm not sure. I can. No, but that's a good question. Um, so just in the spirit of transparency, there is a current application that's out from I think the works and some folks like on the city side. Is it on the city side? Some type of entity? I forgot. Anyway, I'm not sure. Like, there is some aspects around soil sampling that could cross over and overlap with things that are specific to lead. Now, what that looks like in what they submitted in their application, I don't know. But there are implications for lead, particularly around soil, with soil samples, soil testing, that does overlap with that. But that's kind of the furthest of the extent that I know. But I can ask.
Yeah, I can chime in.
There is a question, that's a good question in the chat box, that says, and this is specific to the 160,000, does it have to be allocated by a certain date? So I'm gonna ask that because I think in the resolution, no, that's not it. Let me look at the printed one. So in the resolution, it says, give me 1 second so I could actually tell you what it says. I want to say that it came from ARPA dollars, but let me make sure I'm not lying. Okay, let's see. So yeah, it's some type of COVID money. Yep, it's ARPA dollars. Ooh, so that's an excellent question. Is when they have to, when do they have to
Right.
get this money out? Yeah, because this is from fiscal year 2022 also. So I will follow up. Thank you for that question, Sarah.
Yeah. And on the brownfields thing, the only other entity that I know that was like a lead
Alrighty.
applicant was
Next
CRA.
item. Okay, so community request for citywide lead awareness event. I think so, that it needs to happen. I wanted it to happen during, I don't know why, lead poisoning week. That sneaks up on me every time. And I know every year when it's gonna happen, but lifes. I definitely think that there should be. I want to actually, and this is clearly open for discussion. I want to ask Mayor Harris's team if they want to do like a joint like symposium of sorts where you bring in not just like a focus on like housing, for example, but it's all encompassing. So like you talked about what's the implications for lead, like with brownfields and Superfund sites, and bring in industry and like what implications are for that, like a workforce development, like all these things around lead. I think that will really be powerful. I could always flex and bring in some people from EPA to come, to participate. But even like something that's not really mentioned, but from an educational perspective, is like the presence of lead in consumer products. So even from a residential perspective, you could potentially have old fixtures in your home that can leach lead. So like in your faucets in the bathroom, in the kitchen, and you probably have seen them before. Like you go to your grandma's house and it's real pretty. It'd be really aesthetically pleasing. But depending on when they were made, it might be lead in it. You don't know. On the other end of that, and this more so is a little bit different, but still from an awareness perspective, with imported goods, even like cheap toys made out of like cheap plastic, oftentimes have extremely high levels of lead. Imported beauty products have sometimes high levels of lead because lead makes colors pop. So like with toys and sometimes like ceramic items that are imported again, Typically domestically, like that's not supposed to happen, but it's not as many regulations on things that are imported. But that's good from an awareness perspective. But I do think that that would be powerful if it was just like everybody that has a stake hand in like lead prevention work all coming together from an educational perspective. But that's just like what my thoughts are.
It's needed.
Yeah, yeah. And then you can, bring in like county commissioners. Hopefully you can get like some other electeds, like not just county commission, but some of our state legislators. And then also just people from industry. So like the business community also, I mean, can have a lot of stake in this because even from like a contractor perspective, it's money to be made, particularly around lead. We might never see this type of money again that has been allocated towards EJ in general. But those are just my thoughts around what I think could happen. I'm trying to think, we did. It's something that we did a long time ago, but I think it was more so just around environment in general. But I think something that's lead specific could really be a game changer. But what are y'all
It
thoughts?
should happen. I just wonder when. Should
Yeah,
it be the same week as Labor Week, or should it be a different time?
maybe if we plan early this time for real, we can actually do it. Because it sneaks up every single.
Will I ask
Ah,
you for it?
I know. I'm like, man, that's in October, but you could do like that gives you time to like figure out where it's gonna be, who gonna be there, who gonna talk about it, content development, sponsorships, getting it out into the community. So it won't be rushed if it is proposed to do it in for lead poison prevention week.
So let me ask this, are there any, like, that's a lot. That's a lot of different pieces that you can touch. Of course, you got business and industry. For business, oftentimes, there's a lot of, I guess, talk around, I guess, really DEI equity. If there's a way to tie it into how it creates a more equitable environment. A lot of people are talking about,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, we want to be inclusive and we want, like, but what does that really look like? We can figure out how to, again, tie a dollar amount to it. Like, what is this costing business?
Mm.
Like that's business don't care until they understand the bottom line. When they start to understand that like this is going to cost you this much money, or there's a opportunity loss of X amount. Like, oh, we can capture and capitalize on that. Like, yeah, that's when that really starts to.
Mm-hmm.
And if we compare it with something else that is, I guess, of importance to the business community, they, pairing it with something else makes it more impactful because it's like a lead in opposed to just, I think a lot of times, to be frank and honest with you, I think a lot of times people think about lead as an issue. It's like, oh, we've got like lead paint remediation, so that's stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
And so you got to figure out, okay, so how does this currently affect you today?
Yeah.
And then if it's a certain community that it doesn't affect today, how does it affect people that you sell things to?
So do you think that it would be more advantageous as opposed to making it solely focused on lead, if it does just say environmental justice, where it can be a bit more all encompassing?
I say yes, with the broad strokes, environmental justice, because that's the larger banner. But underneath it is like very specifically, you keep pointing to how how this keeps coming up. Then it starts painting a better picture of, oh wow, that is an issue. I didn't realize I didn't realize there's still a lot. That makes perfect sense. There's still a lot of imports of the lead, and I can guarantee you those imports come in, they're probably cheaper to us.
Because they be at like dollar stores, Family Dollars, and where are those located?
We got probably throw a rocket about 5 of them right now. So it starts, and then I guess you look at Memphis and you look at the socioeconomics of Memphis, and then I guarantee you that picture starts getting harder and harder to look at. You gotta tie back to business and money.
Okay, I'm gonna bring the idea up to Frankie and Jerry to see what their thoughts are. Um, I honestly think like from a, you know what, now that I'm thinking about it from a grand scheme of things, where it's not necessarily just specific to lead, where it does make it advantageous for the county. There's been some significant green initiatives where being in a southern city, you're not seeing that other places. So like this Green Fleet initiative, it's pretty progressive. It's not, it's just county specific.
Memphis is
Um,
about to get
it
a
is.
lot of
Mm-hmm.
and the more inclusive and equitable we are in all of our practices, the better, the better we are. If we can start to quantify these things and shine light on it. I'm not trying to, the last thing I'm trying to do is discourage investment. On the counter, what I'm trying to do is get people to do the right thing so that they can, and they realize and know they attract more business.
And so we can get better paying jobs so that this rise in people who are unsettled and experiencing strife, that it can calm down. I'm trying to be politically correct. Folks need money.
Right.
At the end of the day, and these corporations that come in and out of this city with no consequence, even from the onset, and once like they pretty much like, and I hate to use this language, it's not politically correct, pimp the people out and they get what they get, then they out, then we're still left with a very devastated population of people. It changes, it's a game changer when you start to have more attractive industry and options.
More attractive
Right.
options. I've for years been an advocate for against, um, you know, low being a town that is for low cost of labor. And we've had conversations about the low cost of labor. So, but and not to get on a track about that, but I think,
No, it's okay.
it's pivotal for us to figure out. Yes, I think we should do something with more awareness around it, but environmental justice as a broader banner. But having the interweaving thread, I love the thread analogy. Like the interweaving thread be lead, and how many times lead keeps showing up, and how lead is affecting communities, how lead is affecting. Talk about education, how the workforce has its challenges, but what does lead do when it's pervasive in communities about the learning abilities of those people who are affected by lead?
And it's generations. So it's definitely a public health, aspect. And we got like all this bragging about the medical district, like show up in this space. It is a stakeholder almost in all fronts. But okay. So I'll pitch it. I'll pitch it to Frankie and Jerry. I'll also try to offer some razzle dazzle. So I want EPA Administrator Michael Regan to come to the one and only Memphis, Tennessee. He has visited many states in the Southeast, but he has not come to Tennessee. And I want him to come. What a phenomenal opportunity if he could come to whatever this thing is going to be. Because typically when he comes into town, into a city, you show him around. You get to show him like some of the environmental degradation that we see throughout, the city. He needs to see Superfund sites that's right there in the heart of Orange Mound. He needs to see communities where there are concentrated lead service lines. He needs to see communities that are impacted by this ETO. I said what I said, with this carcinogenic air pollutant like that. He needs to see that. And just show up for the greatest city in the state of Tennessee. But I think that also could be powerful, even like putting Memphis in a position like for change. And then of course we got a lot of PR around the pipeline. Also, you know, is a good like entry point, like from the people power perspective, because we can't leave community out of this work and how it works. Yeah, yeah. So I'm excited.
So how,
Oh, yep. And then Sarah just said Velsico, coal ash, yep, to get uh Administrator Regan
how about we
see it.
determine figure out what things are more likely to grab his attention?
Regan or Mayor Harris or both?
I'm going for the EPA director.
Oh, Regan.
Go for the top, because then of course, the local officials are gonna have to gravitate towards that.
And the state.
Exactly. Call some state folks.
All right, let's do it. I'm gonna just do a straight up ask. Be like, hey,
Describe
can
what
Regan
it is, so
come?
we're gonna be figuring out why.
Well, I'm gonna look him in just because he needs to do a visit, and I can list out all the reasons why.
So
But
let's build it that way.
okay.
I think that's powerful. Build it that way.
So that's my next step. I'll touch base. I'm still gonna have, because I have to do this separately, to ask just like, hey, can Regan come do a visit? If he does come well, I'm just gonna focus on Shelby County. But I'm like, he may want to do some stuff in some other parts of the state that ain't my business. But gonna just solely focus on Shelby for the purposes of this conversation. But I will reach out to his team and see, you know, what the possibility may be. And even if it doesn't, they can still send other like high profile people to visit, but I really want him to. Okay, cool.
We had Buddha here not too long ago.
Okay, that's interesting. We definitely have some transportation issues going on. Okay. All right, next item. Let's see. We talked about. Oh, okay, so discussion around the presentation. I can't read. Request for county commissioners and community education regarding federal funding opportunities and local investments. So with that presentation, and if you have access to the digital copy of the presentation, the agenda, then you can see the PowerPoint. If you're online, I am dropping the link in the chat box so that you can access that presentation. The presentation was received well. The acts, well, for the most part, from the county commission, it was received well. The acts was for there to be a pollution reduction plan. Yeah, it's polluted in Memphis. Like, y'all come up with a plan to diminish all this pollution in the community. It covered all bases of soil, water, maybe soil not as much. Main was water, uh, air, housing. Let me look instead of just guessing. Let me look at the actual PowerPoint. What all did I talk about? Yeah, lead exposure, water pollution, air pollution, and energy burden. So quick context, all of this information, I did not come up with this. So this literally is like words from community. So from community-based organizations, because y'all know that air pollution and energy is not even my thing. That is not where I'm expert. That's not my ministry. And so, yeah, so that was the ask, is for there to be a pollution reduction plan, and then also pushing for the county to apply for as many grants as possible, because this money ain't coming back. We don't know what's going to happen in 2024. There have been some missed opportunities, not necessarily like within the county, but in the city. Memphis and Shelby County as a collaborative, but it's pretty much saying like, hey, whenever it's money to be secured, work to secure this money. I did an outline of what funding already exists. So the most consistent funding actually is with the lead paint hazard reduction program, which is working. We have evidence that it is working. Like, let's keep doing that. I think that a next step forward would be to replicate that model, but towards another aspect of pollution reduction. So if this is working like with the workforce development component is incorporated into the lead paint hazard program, it has nonprofit and local engagement. Like we even did like canvassing with people that actually go and do the home inspections. Like that's powerful. That's great. How can we have this same type of model to address other environmental issues that exist within Shelby County and that is not necessarily just focused on lead paint? So of course that gives entry point like on the water side, which we know still lives with more so with the city. It also, you know, with groundwater, addressing in public comment in the last meeting where we had Protect Our Aquifer to come in to talk about pollution control, which is so critical around protecting the aquifer. But yeah, county commission, their ask to me was, who are the organizations that are already doing the work? So to me, I took that as who we need to give resources to so they can continue to do what they're doing. And I'm like, I'm cool with that, but I still want a pollution reduction plan, like from the actual county. Um, so the feedback I got like from an administrative perspective, since we are a commission that was approved by county commission, I would much rather liaise as they are an overreaching like accountability structure for them to do the request to the administration for a pollution reduction plan. I don't know from a strategy perspective if we should just straight up just ask like the administration, hey, can y'all do a pollution reduction plan? But something has got to happen because it's real bad. Um, every time we turn around, like there's some sort of polluting agent in our communities. And what can we do to be more proactive? We can't go back and change time. We can't go back and redo stuff. The damage is kind of already done. Like, how do we move forward to address like legacy pollution, but then also grow and shift the culture to be proactive to prevent additional pollution from entering into the county? Was essentially like what it was. So, but I open it up for discussion.
My own question is in the creating the pollution reduction plan is what capacity of enforcement or organization do they have? Like you can get the organizations together, but what is the metric of measurement for compliance and or is there a means to understand like this is how we get success? That's what immediately comes to mind. Like I think if they approach it without a means of understanding like how they're going to enforce, and I'm reluctant to even use the term enforce because anytime you talk about government and the term enforce, people start to think a little leery. But I mean, the whole purpose of government is to provide a better life for the citizenry. So, what measures or means they have, and then what fund, I mean, what funds are, I mean, what companies or entities are already doing it is one thing. So that means that have some funding, but what additional funding can be put behind it to, kind of make sure this happens. So those are things, the thoughts that immediately come to mind for me.
Yeah, I immediately thought about scorecard. I love scorecards. And I'm biased because in my previous life, that was my job where I created a scorecard.
You are really good at scorecards.
I love scorecards. And baby, they work. They work, especially if there's a scorecard where your indicators are actually like attached to policy or some type of rule or statute or what have you, that takes away kind of the leeriness. And I get it from government, like we don't, we want to remain neutral. But if you have that backup, if you have law that is on your side, then that supports like you being able to enforce and hold people accountable. I don't know why I think about that at first, but that is a possibility. I think even right now from a federal perspective, that's been a big thing around scorecards, and nobody likes to be we never grow out of like one good grades. But you definitely feel a way, especially if it's public facing. But even like I think about thanks, Sarah said, good job presenting. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I was a little bit unnerved because it was with the new county commissioners. Woo! And the people that went before me, I mean, it was a challenge. I'm usually, ready, but I was like, oh Lord, what's about to happen?
Was it because they were awesome or because they were horrible?
I plead the fifth.
Okay.
They asked a lot of good questions. I'll just say that. But yeah, yeah. I think that accountability and compliance part is really good. I think and even if it was a scorecard approach, to me and from my own experience, it taught me like what I didn't know. So if you start from a scorecard, you're like, well, dang, what all am I supposed to be holding people accountable to? It forces you to delve deep into that, where then like you have to bring in legal. It becomes more collaborative, where they're like, oh, we really are supposed to be looking at this. It really helps you as a governmental entity to protect yourself, where if something did go down, you'd be like, look, we got this structure that's in place, to serve as a source of accountability. But it's an option. I'm liking where this is going. Because it's like, okay, if we're doing pollution reduction, going back to what Eric said, how do we know that we're reducing it? Like, how do we know that like it's working? Take notes. So maybe I think maybe what a next step will be are those council persons who were the most engaged, and I can name them. It was Commissioner Thornton, it was Commissioner Henry Brooks, and it was Commissioner Sugarman. Henry Brooks. Is his last name Brooks? Did I mess it up? Oh, sorry if I messed it up on record.
Is there another Brooks in government?
I know she represents a part of North Memphis. Let me make sure, Lord, I'm on record. Let me make sure I did not butcher his last name.
What's happening here?
Okay, I'm correct. I got nervous. I'm like, Lord, did I mess his name up? Yeah, it's Commissioner Henry Brooks. So not Willie Brooks. Willie Brooks is what, clerk? Or, what is clerk? Look at me not doing right with civic education. But those are the people that were inquisitive during the actual presentation. But maybe a next step is to potentially engage with an ally that is representative of commission to kind of get their insight around what that could potentially look like. I think also speaking with folks from the administration will also be good, and to establish rapport, specifically because there's largely aspects of pollution oversight from the health department. I'll be candid. When the LPC was established, we worked with Director Haushalter. We do not have a relationship thus far with Dr. Taylor. I think that could be an opportunity, to engage, to see like what what could be done, where we're respective of what the request has been from community, and kind of taking it from that perspective. That's my angle. But you know, I get real jazzy about scorecards. It's teacher grades. Any other things like on that item? Oh, okay. All right. So going into new business, and I want to make sure that we wrap up by 7:30 because I can hear the sounds of people wanting to go home in in the background in this venue. So new business. Okay, so LPC officer elections. So I want to, before we go all the way into new business, I do want to get this done no matter what with point A. But I think the other two items, I do want to table those. So items B and C under new business with the proposed amendments to the bylaws and scope of work. I do want to table that, as well as the discussion around daycare facilities. I am going to give a little bit more context on both of those, but as far as discussion, I want to table those two, but do want to keep A under new business to move forward with that. Okay. Okay. So what I say, I would like to make a motion to table items B and C under new business. Is that how I'm supposed to say it?
Well,
How I'm supposed to say it? Help me out, parliamentary.
No. Oh, here's the thing. It's got to come from the floor. And
Oh,
you
I
as
gotta
the
open the
chair-
floor.
You as
Oh.
the chair have to, you as the chair have to, you kind of, okay, yeah, that happened. I can't think of the term right now, it's late. But, so, I move that we table discussion points B and C, new business, until the next meeting, making them old business in the subsequent meeting. I second.
Okay, so moved. So we will move forward with discussing point A under new business, which is LPC officer elections. So I would like for us to reference the bylaws so that we can all be privy to what the existing positions or offices are. For those who are virtual, if you don't have access to the digital copy of the agenda, I am going to drop a link to the LPC bylaws in the chat box. And again, for those who are in person, there are printed copies available. Okay, so if you go to page 4, Article 6, officers, it's on page 4. So currently the offices include chair, vice chair, secretary. There actually should be an amendment on here that was approved, and I got to go back and talk to Catrice, where there was an addition to parliamentarian that's not reflected in here.
I do recall that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back. We're gonna have to go back to those minutes and then put like what the actual date was when that was amended. So I'll put note to self around that, because that was already voted on and confirmed. Okay. Oops, let me make a note of that right quick. Parliamentarian. Okay, so I made a note about that. Okay, so essentially what we need to do, so I just got reappointed. And so all that means that my term as chair was actually up a couple of months ago. But we, are still on task because we have convened now. So right now, we also do not have a vice chair, as the previous vice chair has rolled off and did not seek reappointment. And then technically, let's see. One full year. Yeah, both are up. So the positions that are currently up are all of them except for, is parliamentarian? Yep, parliamentarian will be too, but it's not reflected in its updated bylaws. Yes. So we need to vote. So we do have quorum. So we need to discuss or make a nomination for chair, vice chair, secretary, and parliamentarian. Now, the only issue that I see is, even though we've met quorum, we do have 4 offices that need to be filled. Do we, because I don't want to volunteer nobody,
No.
but yeah, what did parliamentarian, what we need to do? with
Okay,
that.
so as we can do several things. We can go ahead and decide what the slate of officers will be, and then we can simply, chair is gonna be, we know chair is gonna be, we can decide. And or we can, if there is an absence of one of those roles, we can table that and leave that open, because as long as you got the chair and the secretary, you can still operate. So as long as those 2 are still functioning, we can table any other vacant offices until we have determined someone to be appointed or place in those positions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, how do we set, how we set this up?
Okay, so we can have a discussion and suggest, like, okay, well, we're gonna put in Billie Jean as chair, and Jim Joe as vice chair, secretary, yada yada, parliamentary, yada yada. Or we can say, okay, well, there's not a vacant, there's not a person appointed for 1 or 2 of the spots, and then so we can determine what you want to slate, or we can, as a group, have discussion about what the slate should be, and then install that slate. Or we can table and then have further discussion later on once we determine that. But it's really, at this point, it's really the pleasure of the chair and the members present, and any members that might be present there. So I mean, we can make the determination how we'll move. We can draw it out for 1 month or another month, so we can move forward. But the main thing is, well, let me back up. The main thing is the chair and the secretary need to be in place.
Okay.
Is that clear as mud?
Yes. Yes. Okay.
We got the chair.
We know.
Okay, so what do we say? So,
How do you, Madam Chair.
so somebody has to nominate me?
Well, not necessarily, well, yes, let me think this out. The motion can come from the floor.
See, this is why I need to be back active in my
let's see,
sorority.
Yeah.
I forgot.
You can nominate, nominations can come from the floor, and a slate can be put together, or a slate can be put together. We can say the slate is X, and we can install that slate. It can be simple.
Okay.
But at this point, what I would advise is, I think we have an open floor for discussion. Decide which roles we're gonna have.
Okay.
Which people are gonna plug into which roles. Determine that, and then present said slate verbally, and then install said slate, or move said personnel into that slate. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
I would suggest we have discussion, and then we, at that point, in that discussion, the result from the discussion should be what the slate is.
Okay. So I would say I would like to open the floor for discussion. Okay. The floor is now open. Okay. So for the position of chair.
I think everybody knows agrees what the floor should be.
Okay. All right. So the recommendation is for Latricia to serve as chair for another term. Okay, for the position of, I'm gonna go in order with what we have to get done. So in the position of secretary, I recommend that Matthew Wood serve as secretary in that role.
Okay.
Okay. You did a big sigh. I'm like,
Yeah,
you could,
that was something.
yeah.
Matthew, so.
He's not opposed to
Okay. Just want to make sure. No, I don't want to volunteer. I don't want to volunteer nobody.
Okay.
Okay, so we got that. Then in priority, would it be vice chair or?
So if I'm
I
being
need
honest,
parliamentarian.
to be honest, we would need to look at if the parliamentary can hold multiple roles. Meaning if the vice chair or the secretary can also serve as the parliamentarian. And I don't know if and I hadn't read through.
There's nothing that excludes it. So if you look at what's outlined in 3, under vice chair, it says perform such other duties as requested by the chair and furtherance thereof. But there's not any language that precludes an officer for serving in more than one role.
Okay. Well, I mean, so if is the
Catrice, the attorney? No,
Sharon's on the line.
she's not on the line.
Okay. So does she not? And I'm just asking frankly, is she not interested in serving as in roles anymore?
I'm not sure.
And that's that's a good question. Like,
Mhm.
is there somebody else who would be more interested in a certain role?
Mhm. So do we want to leave parliamentarian as one of the ones that's tabled, or do we want to recommend and then say we tabled the?
I don't have any problem serving as parliamentarian for another term. I don't. However, if there is another place or that you want me to serve, whether the board wants me to serve, I will do just that. I will serve both roles if necessary, or whatever roles the board needs me to serve as.
So I would say just by the level of priority and being that like we still need to go back and look to see like what happened with this amendment by copy of the bylaws where parliamentarian is not physically on this copy, I would say that we would prioritize, or I would recommend that we prioritize adding vice chair to the slate, and the recommendation would be that Eric Stevenson would serve in that capacity.
Is that second? Is that okay? That's pleasing to the
Okay.
board.
Okay. All right, I'm just making notes to self. And so for parliamentarian, I think that we should table that.
Okay, we'll find out what's
Yeah,
going on.
yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things that if we determine, and in the future, if we need to make an amendment where we combine those responsibilities and the vice chair or the secretary's role, that might be beneficial. It may happen in later iterations, but it's something to consider because of the kind of duties of the parliamentary.
Got you.
So anyway,
okay.
But again,
Oh, so I'm putting this in the notes.
I am here to serve.
All right. Okay. Well, so what I need to say? Oh wait, I'm like,
something to the effect that the chair recognizes that the slate of officers are, and you would say this,
the position and the name.
And positions and the names associated
Okay.
with it, and then we would at this point, for the convening directors or whatever, agree and then move it forward.
Okay. All right. So I will read the proposed slate of recommended officers, beginning with chair. So the recommendation for the position of chair is Latricia Adams. For the position of secretary is Matthew Woods. And for the position of vice chair is Eric Stevenson. As it relates to the position of parliamentarian, the recommendation is to table that particular position. With reading that slate, do I now make a motion to vote to accept, or do we vote?
So with that being a slate from the floor, and I'll make a motion from the floor, I recommend that we accept the slate of candidates as presented, to that, just that, as presented.
Okay,
And then then you can call for the vote. Or
okay,
you call for any questions to that, and then you call for the vote.
okay. Are there any questions in regards to the
Motion.
motion that has been made? Seeing none, I would like to call a vote. Is that what's that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, being none, I would like, woo, child, I need to go over my rules, Robert's Rule of Order. Okay, I would like to call a vote. All in favor of the proposed slate, respond with aye. Those opposed, nay. Okay. Ayes have a motion. Motion passes. All right, congrats to everybody. Woo, child. That was, I need to really get it together on my Robert's Rules of Order.
Robert's rules is a thing.
Oh, Jesus. To give you a lot of anxiety. I'm like, man. Okay, so we are actually gonna move to the last agenda item, as items B and C have been tabled based on a motion that is already passed. So announcements, this is just really quick. So the LPC had a phenomenal opportunity last year to be selected nationally to provide comment in a public forum with community members and decision makers to provide comment for the lead and copper rule. The update is the comment period for lead and copper rule improvements actually ended in November. We did share that information out to our listserv. The anticipation for the finalized lead and copper rules is not until 2024, which is interesting, being that we will be moving into presidential election season. So it could be potential depending on who would assume the next seat as president, could completely come in and change everything, but we don't know what the future may hold. But did want to go on record and provide an update there from a federal perspective. So we just got to work with what we got with the current real old 1990 lead and copper rule. My God. All right. Oh, thank you. All the other young lady left. Okay. Well, we have come to an end. We got everything done for the most part. I move that we close the December 14th, 2022 Shelby County Lead Prevention and Sustainability Commission, that we close at 7:40 p.m. All right. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, let me stop recording.